It's amazing how popular zombies are, like amazing how many friends of mine are just so excited about the idea that zombie movies are being made again.
Doing a remake of Dawn of the Dead is a sacrilegious act that I have embraced. I can't apologize for it because we had so much fun doing it, but at the same time, I was aware that I was treading on some hallowed grounds, if you will.
George Romero wrote the book on zombies. He created the modern zombie. If you look at all of his movies in the 60s and 70s, the zombies are very containable. They're not very scary, they don't have superpowers, but we as a society always implode. We give into fear, we don't work together. That's what's always so terrifying about zombie movies, is our inability to handle the problem.
A number of people over the years have come to me wanting to buy the rights to remake the movie. And I didn't hear anything from anyone that motivated me until Eric Newman called one day and said, "Found you."
In its genre, it's really the best. And we just thought it would be fun to make our version of it. We bought the rights and hired James Gunn to write it.
I had always loved Dawn of the Dead. It was my favorite zombie movie. I'm a huge zombie movie fan.
She's like, I have to do that. I have the poster in my room. I'm looking at it right now. I have to be the guy that writes it.
I think the first Dawn of the Dead was done perfectly. What interested me was making a larger budget zombie movie that had lone survivors alone in a mall. I think you can't come up with a better setting than that, and just doing it in a new way.
The two Dawn of the Deads, they're like night and day. They're very different.
The context was the same, the context of the mall, the consumerism, but it wasn't trying to duplicate the movie identically with the same characters or the same character arcs. And there are similarities, there are parallels, certainly.
The underbelly of what George did originally is present in the remake in terms of I shopped, therefore I am. And winding up in a shopping mall at the end of the world where you think to yourself, maybe I've got everything I might need to survive, and then finding out that that's not enough. It has scenes where it pays its respects to the original, but it's another movie.
This movie is definitely a re-envisioning. It's not a remake. We didn't take George's script and shoot it again.
What Zack is trying to do with this is to play it a little closer to the vest and make it more about real people. And what would we do if you woke up and the world went mad?
I really think Zack is a director who says a lot with the camera without dialogue. And anytime I watch a filmmaker and I'm looking at their work, what I do is I turn down the volume on whatever piece I'm watching and see if they tell the story without me hearing dialogue.
We always talked about the reality. It has to be real. It has to be serious. It's not campy.
It has such a different tone. I think in no way does it sort of impede on the territory of the original. I mean, I hope that lets me off the hook a little bit, but I'm sure it doesn't.
The great monsters, in terms of movie history, Godzilla, King Kong, they were all sympathetic monsters. They weren't out to really hurt someone because they were mean or evil. They were being provoked. And they were monsters with heart. And I think the zombies are monsters with heart. They found themselves in a situation where this was their new self, okay? And they're acting instinctively. If they didn't have to eat, they wouldn't come after us.
There's something so kind of endearing about them. Like, they have no plan at all. They're just like these creatures of instinct.
The zombie films really work because they confront our fear of death while also giving us a little something to play with at the same time.
Zombies are representative of the herd. The sort of the anti-individual who forms this collective and comes after you and tries to get you to buy into it. They want you to join them. That's sort of a dominant theme in corporate culture.
Do his head one more time.
Eat our food, wear our clothes, use our stuff. Our heroes, our survivors are sort of the holdouts.
I wrote Dawn of the Dead in an unusual way in that I didn't write a treatment first, so I didn't know what was going to happen. I said, let's take these characters and throw them in this mall and have them try to figure out a way to get out of it, and I would try to figure it out along with them. What about all the different things that run through these people's minds? All the different theories about what's going on. Is this a religious happening? Is this a scientific occurrence? What is this? And how do you explain it to yourself so that your own worldview just doesn't get crushed? Do you believe in God more? Do you not believe in God at all? What do you do in the face of, your family trying to eat you? How do you make sense of that to yourself? I just could have gone on forever. I very rarely slept. I didn't eat. I didn't bathe. I just wrote about these zombies and these people within the mall. And I actually came to really care about some of these characters. I mean, the character of Michael to me is very tragic, and I relate to him. Like, he's a loser. He's finally good at something, and he's good at something that's really just like the worst thing to possibly be good at, which is killing zombies.
I thought the script was fantastic. From the point of view of my character, Anna, it's really rare you have a film like this where the female character is anything more than somebody screaming and running away. It's kind of great that she's someone who, despite what she goes through, kind of takes charge a little bit and has a plan and kind of holds her own. And I found it very, very funny, but without being kind of tongue-in-cheek in that sort of ironic way that we've come to know in horror movies recently. It takes itself seriously, and yet it's sort of still fun.
Like, each character is really, really well drawn. There's not one cheesy, cliche character in this film. They've done a really, like, superb job with that.
Dawn of the Dead is about, you know, people trying to survive and in a time of crisis. You know, it's not really about zombies, because you don't really find out what's going on with the zombies. You don't know how they got here. You don't know anything. It's really about the people.
I think they needed to cast actors in this because so it's not just a quote-unquote horror movie. So it's something where you care about the people in it.
The great blessing I had was that all the actors on the movie, they each had a wealth of experience, not only acting, but also with like life itself. And so they were able to weave that really well.
It seemed like one of those opportunities to go into a movie and actually just sort of play. Dead in the sense that they're not actually dead.
Yeah, that's it.
That's pretty good. We're staying with the script, obviously, but he's really open to ideas, and everybody's sort of laughing on set. I mean, so far it's had like a great feel.
The actors, we are sort of motley looking crew together, but I think we have a very good chemistry.
We have the best time, man. It's incredible. It's incredible how we all bonded so well, too.
We laugh and joke all day. It's a fun movie. I mean, it is very intense when you see it, but as far as the presence on the set, you know, we just have a good time.
Sarah Polley is a prima donna. No one in the cast seems to like her. I'm going to tell her that now. She's always telling the actors what to do. Look at her.
So relentless, you have no idea.
When we started talking about location for this movie, I mean, obviously the most important piece of the puzzle was the mall.
We had to find an existing mall that was scheduled for demolition and then remodel and transform it for our use.
We looked at a mall in LA, there was a mall in New Zealand, there was a mall in Romania, and there was a mall in Toronto. We went up to Toronto and looked at the mall, and we brought Andrew Nescaramne, our production designer, with us. And he looked around and said, you know what? I could do something really cool with this mall.
Andrew and I, who's the production designer, we sat down and we started talking about like what we wanted the mall to look like. And from the beginning, we wanted it to be slick. We wanted it to be designed to the point where you could feel the design, like the design itself was a character.
We did research not only in North America, but we looked at Japanese malls and malls in England.
What we wanted ideally was like real retail stores, so it really felt real. But then when they saw and read our script, they were a little hesitant because they were afraid that we would spray blood all over their logo or do something horrible, which we would have.
That left Andrew with the idea that he had to create a hardware store, Case Hardware. He had to create Reflex Sports. He had to create a jewelry store. He had to create a baby store. He had to create a version of a coffee store. Because people were interacting with them all the time, they couldn't just be a facade. They really were stores. And that was a really big job.
A good majority of our initial build was spent demolishing and tearing everything away right down to the structural steel.
Roots was great. We have a real Roots store in there. And Panasonic, we have a real Panasonic store. They were pretty gutsy, and I thought very smart to do it.
So those two are real, but everything else we had to kind of create around them.
There was no way you wouldn't assume that these were real stores. Case Hardware looks absolutely like, hey, of course there's a Case Hardware. Of course there's a Reflex Sports. It's not even a question.
It's pretty spectacular. I guess they're going to, you know, burn it down or raise it to the ground. I don't know what they're going to do. It's a terrible waste, but they're going to have a hell of a sale at the end of the shoot.
In a movie like this, it's like impossible to have too much gore.
Fire!
We had designed more scenes of gore into the original layout of the movie, but we ended up trying to just go with the moments that are the most sort of impactful.
And it was always like, let's make the movie we want to make, and then, you know, we'll sort of let the MPAA tell us what's too much.
I am a fan of the gore, And I had the gore in great detail in the original script. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was disgusting.
Most people have like a stopper that helps them to understand like how much is too much. And I think just, I wasn't blessed with that. The level of gore you get now is probably based on laws. There's laws that like tell you how much you can have. It's weird. I remember I was having an early conversation with Eric Newman, and Eric said to me like, how do you see the zombies? And I go, well, if they could run, it would change the whole dynamic.
I think that there is something very frightening about the lumbering zombie coming towards you, but there's something much more dangerous about a running zombie coming towards you. So we decided to go with the danger factor as opposed to the imagery factor.
If you don't feel pain, then you don't slow down. If you don't feel pain in your muscles, then you never get tired. You can run forever. You run for 100 miles. You don't care, like till your feet like bleed and fall off. And even then they still try and run. They'd run on the stumps.
My whole approach to the actual look of the zombies was not making anything up. In fact, trying to kind of shake off the traditional zombie looks from my mind and from my crew's mind. And our greatest challenge was to just stick to reality. There's not really zombies walking around, but people die and decay and get disgusting looking. And that's what we used as our reference material. We had forensic books and medical books and all kinds of horrible things out all the time.
If a zombie can make you think that this is a real cadaver, that's a good zombie.
They kept some sort of human element to them. It was almost like the faces of the zombies went through a catastrophe that marred them, but still they're semi-human. When I look at them, I'm shooting an injured human.
For the entire month of August, you had a ton of zombies walking around both sets because we were shooting first unit and second unit, and they were at opposing ends of the clock. I'd say a safe average was probably 250 zombies a day. And all the while, we had to maintain our supply of goods for these people to perform these makeups. So we were staying ahead of the schedule by about an hour, right down to the wire. The greatest challenge for me in the makeup that I was most concerned with was the Vivian character in the beginning of the film. It was potentially the one makeup that just could have gone completely wrong. And not necessarily from a makeup standpoint. Technically, I knew we could do it. Emotionally and physically, I didn't know if the child that they were going to cast was going to be able to do it. In one of the first production meetings, I gave a little speech and said how concerned I was about this scene and how we shoot this scene and how the girl deals with it. And everybody just kind of try and follow my lead as I get to know this girl and how she's going to react. And
the great thing about David Anderson, he was sensitive to having the little girl not see herself in the mirror and which is great. I'm like, David, help me, because I've never had a little kid look like this.
This little girl, Hannah, who played the character, was so professional and so thick-skinned. She'd done a couple of roles where she was an alien and she's had prosthetic makeup on before. She and her mother were constantly letting us know that they were okay with it. And right down to the day when she has to go and lunge and bite the neck out of the lead actor.
The thing about the zombie baby was that, a zombie can only do in a lot of ways, what a human can do, only without the pain. Like, a baby's muscles aren't developed, so it can't really run or bite you or jump or anything. So we were just trying to figure out what could a baby do? What could a zombie baby do?
And I said, well, maybe what we should take the leap of faith with is the eyes. When the baby opens its eyes, what we should do is create a set of glass eyes that will shoot against green screen, and you can lay them in there instead of trying to put contacts in a baby or do anything like that. Just leave the baby alone. As we got closer and closer to the scene, it became more obvious that we had to do a little bit of makeup to the baby. So we started experimenting with some products, just baby food and yogurt and strawberry jam, and talked to the mother of the child that was actually cast and made sure that there were no allergies to any of these food products. And the entire makeup was done with food, and baby loved it.
We were very determined to use as little CGI as possible. Not because you can't do incredible things with CGI, but we really believe that to maintain the integrity of the film, we used it only when we had to.
Thank you very much. No more questions. Thank you. No more questions.
For me, it was about, from the beginning, just using the effects to just heighten our world, make it more real. What I didn't want to do from the beginning is have like a CG zombie, because we felt like that was not really true to the genre. Like, I always saw it as a makeup effects movie from the beginning. I always saw it as a movie where When you saw a zombie, he was a guy.
You know, we did some bullet hits and stuff like that, CG, that we couldn't do practically, and a lot of crowd duplication, you know, and it's the only way you can turn 300 zombies into 10,000.
Audiences are really sophisticated now. When you see a CG image, you know what it is, even though you accept it. You embrace it so the story can continue. But I think audiences now are sophisticated enough to like say, oh yeah, that's a CG shot, that's not. You know, they just are.
We hired a composer named Tyler Bates, who is incredibly talented.
Let's pull their dynamic back one notch, the violins.
He had a very clear musical point of view, and it was consistent with what we wanted.
His approach has been really based on just creating sort of discord and creating kind of an uneasy feeling.
I think music in horror films, first off, has to be about psychology and attitude. It has to open the door, these little compartments in your mind that make you uncomfortable. So you're vulnerable to reacting to what imagery you're taking in. It's a hybrid of elements. There are electronic elements, and there's an orchestral element, which I wouldn't necessarily say is classical. There's some composers that are kind of obscure, like Penderecki, who I love, who's just a master of dissonance. I would say the orchestral side has an influence of his, and electronically, this is as extreme as like the most extreme Aphex Twin type stuff, which is, you know, pretty much like organized noise. I'm a firm believer that melody is not welcome in the scarier moments, because as long as there's a melody singing to you, you feel a little bit safe. And what I've tried to do is to make you very, very uncomfortable. I'm doing this as a fan. I am a fan of this movie. I'm a fan of this genre, so that I'm getting into it from that perspective.
Hey, that was cool, Pete. If we can just take one more of those.
We've always viewed this movie not just as a horror movie, but also as sort of a disaster movie, as an end-of-the-world movie.
I think that a lot of horror fans are always looking for something deeper. They're always looking for a message about the world they live in.
You know, you can look at the original Dawn, and I believe you're going to be able to look at the remake, and you can either lay back in your seat and let the movie wash over you without much work and have a great time on the roller coaster. But if you want to lean in a little bit, there's some other stuff going on that might stimulate some thinking, but you're not obligated.
George Romero, one of the great things about that film is its social comment, is the fact that George saw the coming of these sort of consumer temples, in some ways heralding the end of a more individualistic lifestyle. And in our movie, I think the difference is that battle has already been lost. I mean, the mall is now, everyone goes to the mall.
For me, the film is about what people can achieve if they work together. A major event happens that changes everyone's lives, and then we work together and we're able to conquer the catastrophe.
Dawn of the Dead sort of tunes into that in a way that is horrifying, because it is the end of the world we're afraid of. And in other ways, a little bit comforting, because it's something that we really know is not going to actually happen, which is dead people coming back to life and eating us. And I think it's that sort of play between the horror and the comfort of Dawn of the Dead that makes it such an interesting story.
Dawn of the Dead is either about the robot-like mentality that we all take towards our consumerism and our deepest desire to fight it off, being represented by the 7 or 8 people stuck in the mall, or it is a really fun, scary take on the end of the world. One of those two, you decide.
I don't expect to ever have as much fun on a movie as I had on this movie. We got so lucky, the people that were involved. I mean, you know, a bunch of like, you know, adults standing around figuring out the best way to jam a stake through someone's chin and have it come out the top of their head. And it was just like, that's great. That's fun.
The best thing for me would be that fans of the genre feel that we gave them a really good ride. That the people who are fans, who are truly people who respected and loved George Romero's movie, will see it. And even if they have some qualms with the fact that we chose to remake the movie, will think to themselves that we did it with a certain amount of reverence.
There's going to be a slew of the fans who are going to sit there and say, okay, I dare you. Let's see this thing, you know. Hopefully we're going to surprise them.
For the people who don't know Romero's movie, it'd be great if they said, oh, well, let's see the original. We can help create more awareness for the work that he did.
I tried to be true to myself, you know, because I felt like George was true to himself when he made his movie. And that's part of the quality of the movie that comes through, is that it didn't feel like the movie was being made for anyone. And I try to do the same thing. I said, okay, what kind of zombie rough stuff do I want? You know, what kind of mass consumerism, what kind of like fall of society, what do I want to see? And then I try to be as true to that as I could and let that be the thing that makes the movie unique.
How cool. Like, you know, we made a fun, kick-ass, bloody zombie movie.
My favorite part of the experience is being able to then sit in the movie theater for an hour and a half, hour, 40 minutes, and gone on a journey with these cats. Seen them live and die and love and fight zombies and believe it. The visceral reaction is that's real. That's what I think horror fans appreciate that.